Book 101 is all about the books that are read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. From C suite burnout to thriving teams, helping leaders build cultures that put people first. One of her advocacy, no other than Miss Oksana Lukash.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome on Book 101 Review, Miss Oksana. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
I think you did a great job. Yeah, I come from the corporate world, have about 20 plus years of experience in human resources and people operations. So I've worked with a number of different industries, different size companies, but really my sweet spot has been in the startup, small to mid-sized organizations. Most have been public and specifically in the life sciences and biotech sector. And for the past almost a year and a half, I've been focusing on consulting and actually more helping companies instead of internally, just with one organization to help make talent be their competitive advantage and build experiences and cultures that, again, attract the talent that companies need and help that talent do their best work.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Oksana. Thank you. And today, let's talk about brand you. Why every leader needs a personal brand that means something. So, tell us, Miss Oksana, what is or why is a personal branding no longer a vanity project but a core leadership competency in today's professional landscape? What is the fundamentally change?
Yeah, great question. I think the thing is, though, too, is everyone has a brand. Whether they like it or not, we all do. The difference is it intentional? Does it accurately express and represent who we are? And if we are very, again, clear, and I'm actually even using different terminology now instead of a personal brand, it sounds now overused, but more I'm referencing it as your voice. Once you know who you truly are, what your values are, what you stand for, what your non negotiables are, and what you bring to the table, that becomes your filter in a good way to help you make all of the decisions that you're making, what company you should or should not work with, what partnerships you should have, what rooms you should be in, and what rooms you should not be in. So I think in a world with so much noise, with so many things going on and changing constantly, instead of getting lost and chasing what everybody else is doing, I think again, we need to focus on what is uniquely different and special about us, what can only we bring to the world, and again make that be also our competitive advantage.
Indeed, a competitive advantage. Many leaders worry that personal branding means creating a persona. How do you distinguish between strategic, authentic personal branding and just being inauthentic?
Yeah, it's that's a tough one. I think again is what do you want to be known for, right? What do you want your legacy to be? I think every person needs to ask themselves that. So one of my favorite questions to ask is, again, what do you want from, anybody that watched the show Scandal? And I think
Hmm.
we're so good at asking everybody else that, always, aligning with goals, having objectives for our teams, for our businesses, for our organizations. But are we doing the exact same thing for ourselves? So it's, I like, for example, for me, I don't want to be a version of somebody else. I don't want to go and Frankenstein myself. And what I mean by that is take a little bit from everybody else or whatever the buzz things that are going on in the industry on LinkedIn, wherever you get your information from, right? And put pieces of that together to make me. I want to focus on me. I want to look inside and do all the work that I can to, again, be authentic, to share my experiences, to bring the skills that only I have, and be able, again, to impact the rooms and the individuals that I partner with in the best way. So that's where I think, again, just to answer your question, go back is what do you want to be known for? And if you want to just be a version of whatever else exists, then yes, you can absolutely have a persona that does not match who you truly are. But for me, I want to be unapologetically, imperfectly, messy, beautiful me.
Mm. Beautiful and messy. We love that. Mess. We love that. And for sure. So tell us the beyond the title. When you say a brand that means something, what does actually look like? If a leader's brand is not their title or company, what is a true foundation?
Yeah. And I think that's actually, again, where so many people get lost and they make their entire identity about an organization that they're a part of, a title that they have. And what ends up happening is if and when that separation happens or your title changes or you're no longer with that organization, a lot of folks completely fall apart and have that identity crisis. But we are so much more than the work that we do, right? It's we impact people again in every single interaction, in every single conversation, in even ways that we might not be aware of. It's right being on the street and smiling at somebody. We have no idea what that person might be going through and how that smile or potentially any interaction we have with them might impact them in a positive or negative way. So I think again, it's be completely unapologetically you, be vulnerable, share right your experiences, good, bad, ugly, and everything in between. That's what builds relationships, that's what builds trust, that's what builds psychological safety. Good times are great, and I think we never have to teach people how to enjoy the great times and when the company is hitting its goals and money is flowing in and budgets are not being cut, right, and you can hire anybody you want. That's easy. Everyone can thrive in that environment. But the true test comes in is when those challenging times come through. And all of that work and all of the relationships, all of the investments, all of the teamwork that you have built within your team, if you are leading people, and your coworkers and across the entire organization, that's what truly gets tested during the tough times. And most of the times I've been part of organizations where that has been beautiful. And actually, again, my coworkers and I have come out stronger out of those challenging times. And we were able to slay dragons and move mountains. And I've been in organizations where everybody scatters and everybody becomes for themselves because that foundation and that trust was not something that was important. And again, everyone should make a decision for themselves of what matters. But I think a lot of us are seeking being in those environments where our voices are heard, where our opinions are appreciated. I'm not saying our opinions, right? Everybody has to agree with them, but they're appreciated and we understand, right? For example, why maybe our contribution is not something that the organization is going to move forward with, but we're able to freely speak up. We feel safe, we feel heard, we have opportunities for advancement and growth, whatever that again definition is to us. And when all of that comes together, we're treated fairly. That's where magic happens. And I think the organizations, again, that do this the right way are thoughtful, intentional, and consistently work on all of these items are organizations for whom talent does become competitive advantage. Because, right, all of us know the saying, we all forget what people, right, say and right do for us, but we never forget how people make us feel. And that again, you most of the time sticks with us when we're going through some challenging times, how again those around us respond to it and either again support us, um, and right, provide empathy, not sympathy, and how we come out of those tough situations together.
The leadership imperative, Miss Oksana, the true engine. How does a clearly defined, meaningful personal brand specifically accelerate trust building with teams, boards, or stakeholders faster than traditional credentials one?
Yeah, I think again, when you know who you are, you know yours. I actually was introduced to this term, and it was very transformational by Anne Shu. Is what are your no matter what values? Those are not your aspirational values. It's not what you would want to be. It's truly who you are at your core, what drives you, what makes you make the decisions that you do. It's those things I'm sure we all can relate to that we have a full on like physical and body reaction to. When we know that, we can again ask different questions when we are interviewing and considering joining an organization. We can again better describe who we are. We can better describe to all of our stakeholders of how we communicate, what ticks us, what again we're passionate about. And I think again, if we start having openly those conversations with one another, we can understand each other better. And if we understand each other better, and again, then we can have more fulfilling conversations that are not fluff, but more address the hard and tough topics that unfortunately get avoided quite a bit. And I've seen that myself countless times because people don't want to offend each other. They don't know how somebody is going to respond. And right, the excuses, we can list a lot of them, but it's
Mm-hmm.
how do you lean in and again be completely authentic, talk about the tough things, make the tough decisions, and do that again with integrity and dignity where everybody is still respected throughout the process.
Interesting and empowering answer, Miss Oksana. The crises are more in times of organizational crisis or controversy. How does well established values based personal brand provide a protection and credibility for a leader?
I think it actually again starts way before the crisis, right? It's again, it's all of that work that you do to build the foundation. And during crisis, the best thing that again you can do is be authentic, communicate, over communicate, make sure that you create enough channels to share as much information as you're able to. And the reason I say able to, again, depending on the industry that somebody is in, depending on if they're a public company or not, obviously there are certain limitations on what could fully be shared and what has to be um, gatekeep, right? Where you have to gatekeep until that information is public. But you need to create multiple ways of communication all across the organization. If again, the information is flowing all throughout at all different levels, it's beautiful. And you never want somebody to be wondering what's happening. You never want anybody to feel like things are happening to them. If they're part of the process, if they're able to raise their concerns and questions and things, that's when you can again survive the crisis. What I've seen also happen is when communication only happens within a certain group, let's say the executive team, when the communication is very limited, when potentially certain, again, crisis events are minimized. And then that actually destroys any sort of trust, any sort of teamwork, because now if you are saying one thing internally and your team members are getting information from somewhere else that contradicts what you're saying, or they're able to get more information externally from outside of the company than what they're getting in the company, all trust erodes immediately. And once it's gone, it is very difficult to get it back.
Let's talk about the core components, Miss Oksana. Break down the architecture of a meaningful leader's brand. Is it values, narrative, consistency, visibility, or something else entirely?
It would be different for each person. I think, again, once you know who you are, you can absolutely be unapologetic in communicating who you are and who you not to your company, to everyone that you work with. And then based on that, and especially let's say if you are CEO, for really the rest of the organization, you are the company. So a lot of times, and especially let's say even take it further, if you're the founder, most of the time your values are in a way the company values and the company culture. So being very aligned with who you are and who you not is so important, because like I said, you can use that framework to make the decisions of who again you're going to bring in into your organization, who can work in that type of an environment and not just work but thrive. And at the same time, you can make sure that you are not bringing in individuals that are not going to be successful in that type of an environment. You can make decisions on who you do business with and partner with and who you do not. And that becomes, again, part of your DNA and part of the DNA of everything that the organization is doing. And it's part of communication and everything that the company does. So I think, again, at that point, if it's woven in and is part of the DNA of the company, it lives and breathes every single day through everyone. If it's an exercise that somebody does just to say that they have a brand or that they have values or the company has a culture and values and then it lives on a wall, but all of your actions and decision making fully contradict that, I would say don't even do it. And again, then be completely open that that's not something that's important within your company, and right, lead from that perspective.
Miss Oksana, as helping leaders to thrive, what are your short term and long term goals?
I'm sorry, would you be able to repeat the question?
Yes, as you helping leaders to build cultures and put people first, what are your short term and long term goals?
Depends again on the company. There is no peanut butter approach. So I am actually focusing on helping the companies again, not Frankensteining themselves and stop comparing and right trying to copy everything that everyone else is doing. Do you want to be a copy again of another company? Or why are we not focusing internally? Why are we not looking at why our clients are doing business with us versus somebody else that's providing the service or the product that we do? I think once you focus on that, build ways of operating that support that. Again, build an infrastructure where your employees are able to do their best work. And what that means too is understand for each individual, what is their definition of growth, of development? What do they want to do? And put them, align them with roles where they can do their best work, where they're leaning in and using their superpowers. And then again, when once your employees are happy and they're being treated more than fairly, it's absolutely going to spill over into your customers. So The short term, I think goals would be like focus on what is your brand and what makes you different. What
Mm.
is your secret sauce? And a lot of times it doesn't have to be complicated. And then long term goals is how do you continue making sure that your secret sauce is something that continues to be with you? How everyone understands what that is within the organization and don't make shortcuts. Invest in what matters. And again, let's stop looking at talent as a cost. That is your biggest asset. If organizations, for most part, if they do not have employees, they don't have operations, they don't have revenues, they don't have a company. So let's start treating every single employee at every single level within the company like the most important part of the organization that they are.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Oksana, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you? Hmm.
Um, yeah, I would say again, be very honest with yourself. It could be very uncomfortable because it's so much easier to follow what everyone else is doing. Because then when we make a mistake or when we stumble, right, we can just say, oh, well, that advice was bad. But it's a lot harder to, again, really look at ourselves, really find out if we're living a life that is in alignment with what's important to us. And I think once we have that clarity, start making the decisions that support that. Start being in rooms that support that. Surround yourself with individuals that will help you right on that journey, whatever that means for you. Ask for advice from individuals that have been where you're going and be very comfortable with the fact that you are not for everybody and you're not meant to be for everybody. And take that energy that a lot of us people pleasers or recovering people pleasers have spent chasing acceptance from those that will never give it to us, and take that energy and invest it in relationships with individuals that are all about right being part of our journey and wanting us to succeed. But you have to want to succeed yourself more than anybody else in your circle. You need to be your biggest champion.
Your biggest champion. Thank you for that advice, Miss Oksana. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, I'm happy to. And it's actually, I did a post to close out 2025 with a list of books that I read in 2025 that really helped transform me. Um, how many do you want me to list? Because I have a list, but I'm happy to share just a few.
At least give us three or four or five.
Okay. One I would say that everyone needs to read would be Yourself at Work by Claude Silver. I think really the book should be just called Be Yourself. It's absolutely phenomenal. Another book that was very transformational for me is called Overcome Your Villains by Heather Monahan. It's all about, again, vulnerability and really, again, reshifting those naysayers that are trying to take us down and not giving into that and focusing our energies on the opportunities and the things that will move us forward. But that was fantastic. Start with Why by Simon Sinek, I think is an absolute classic. And
Yes.
I re-listened to the 15th edition of that anniversary edition, was phenomenal. And my last one that I would say is Giftology by John Ruhlin. It's the whole concept of how do we build purposeful and deep relationships that are based on quality versus quantity. It's a super fast read. If you're doing it on Audible, it's less than 2 hours, but there's so many incredible wisdoms of nugget or nuggets of wisdoms that I have not heard anywhere else. And that's what I'm happy to leave your listeners with.
Thank you for the recommended books, Miss Oksana. So, to wrap up our discussion for today, uh, on brand you, why every leader needs a personal brand that means something.
Yeah. Because you want to be, I think, uniquely you. And
Hmm.
there's only, right, out of 8 billion people on the planet, there's only one of us. And I think, again, the world needs what each one of us brings to the table. And that's what's beautiful about it. So be you instead of a copy and a version of somebody else. Everyone else is taken.
Yes, people, we are unique. So, you may be like me, like you, but you are unique. You're something else. So, Miss Oksana, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm again, like I said, on a mission to help more individuals find themselves and be comfortable with finding their voice, getting over that overwhelm of the burnout, the overthinking, and the comparison game, and also very much looking to help more organizations again to build experiences that attract the talent that they need that happens to do then their best work while they're within the organizations, help build cultures, identify their values, and really build teamworks.
Yes, thank you, Miss Oksana, for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Yes, people, let's support Miss Oksana because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering leaders will rise. So, Miss Oksana, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. It's a pleasure.
Modicum people, see you soon.